Thank you so much. We will now proceed to alternating 5-minute Q&A sessions, alternating from one party to the other in order of seniority, subject to the early bird rule. Just for those here assembled, the hearing order I've got so far, Lee, Welsh, Moody, Durbin, Hawley, Klobuchar. And we'll add to that as others arrive. All right, so Mr. Kint, why don't I start with you? Tell me what some of the, what challenges do digital publishers face in navigating today's digital advertising ecosystem? Tell us about that.
Sure. Thank you for the question. So publishers today, advertising's about 80% of their revenue on the typical publisher in aggregate. So they're very dependent on advertising, for one, to pay for the high-quality news and entertainment. And they have to deal with a marketplace that's been designed by Google, right? So Google gets to set the rules for auctions, and that's how most of the advertising gets sold. And the amount of money that Google's been able to take out of that supply chain consistently over years takes all the profits away. So publishers are not able to fund their news and entertainment.
And a lot of that stems, is it not, from the fact that they've combined the buy side and the sell side. So would a structural remedy of separating the buy and the sell side, would that make a difference? What impact would that have?
Yes. Requiring Google to not be dominant on the buy side and the sell side, simply put, and presented in the Justice Department's case, would radically change the future for publishers and news and entertainment companies. That the statistic from the allegations in court was that Google takes about 20% of the revenue from publishers in the typical auction. And the only way that they're able to keep that 20% over years is because they actually control the buy side.
Right. Something of a conditioned precedent for being able to do that. Professor Van Loo, let's pivot to you for a minute. Your research focuses on breaking up companies as a remedy, as a structural remedy. How would the America Act address and solve this problem specifically in the ad tech space?
Yeah, it's clear that the America Act would require significant divestitures by Google and Facebook of some of their advertising businesses, and that would remove the current incentives for self-dealing and conflicts of interest that come from owning those various stages in the advertisement purchase process. There are a bunch of details that we could get into if you'd like, but at a high level of abstraction, in a sense, this remedy of requiring divestitures solves the problem that we would otherwise have if we let Google essentially keep a monopoly and then tried to require it to behave and regulate it heavily. And so one question you'd have to ask yourself is, do you trust or want to invest in our government kind of continually micromanaging whether or not Google is behaving and trust that they're going to be able to outsmart Google, so to speak? Or would you rather just remove those incentives at the outset?
Right. Now, your testimony mentioned that businesses from time to time will voluntarily break themselves up without anybody intervening. And you included examples that involved Hewlett-Packard and also PayPal, eBay. In April of last year, almost exactly a year ago, General Electric voluntarily split itself into three companies, marking the end of a vast corporate titan that was, once the single most valuable U.S. company. Since the breakup, in which we've seen it break up into three different pieces. You've got GE's energy division, now referred to as GE Vernova, and its shares are up 115%. You've also got General Electric Aerospace with its shares up 43%. So tell us how this happens and how a breakup can actually be a value enhancement, and thus benefiting both the business itself or themselves after the breakup and consumers.
Yeah, history suggests investors win and markets win because these companies are smaller, nimbler, they can innovate more, they can focus on their strategic advantages rather than being too big to manage. I think those are the biggest principles. I'm happy to say more too.
Now, does that matter? Are the salutary impacts, are the benefits associated with breakup, are they materially different depending on whether the company does it voluntarily or by order of a court?
No, that's a good question, but what we see is that historically, after AT&T was split up, after Standard Oil was split up, there was tremendous innovation in those markets afterwards, tremendous growth, and investors also benefited. Now, I'm not going to say that it was a result of the breakup necessarily, but we see it on the voluntary side paying off, and we have no reason to suspect that it wouldn't pay off when government breakups happen as well.
Right. In other words, it's impossible to isolate all the causal factors in such a way that you can identify a clear line of causation between one another.
Yeah, you never know the counterfactual.
But there are at least a lot of correlative data points that suggest that it could be the cause.
Yes.
Great. My time's expired. We'll hear now from Senator Welch.